first of all, I just want to thank y'all for being in this class. We had an interesting example of this just this past week where Anthony Nix, does everybody know Anthony? Many people know Anthony, right? Who's a great guy in and of himself, but is the county auditor in his official duties. But someone, I think it's two citizens actually, were walking through a couple. They were trying to find, in this case, tax commissioner's office. And I guess had walked, although now we have an information desk, which Bridget helped inaugurate and set up, which is doing a great service in terms of hundreds of people a month come through, not knowing exactly where to go, and they give them good direction. But in this case, they had missed that. And of course, you got the tax commissioner's office now in our building in a very prominent place. Remember when it used to be across the street above Fred's, or close to Fred's anyway, a very obscure place while it was all being renovated. But now we have both a desk and a brand new office that looks, I've said before, like an Apple retail store. But that notwithstanding, these two citizens had missed that. And Anthony saw that they were confused, and took it upon himself to just shepherd them to the right place and walk them over. The point being, then, they were so struck by that, they don't know who Anthony Nix is and doesn't know that he's the auditor. They just know that they were helped, and they knew that it was good customer service. So they went to the point of writing a note back to us to say, hey, this is really different. I didn't expect to walk into a government building and somebody noticed me, take me by the hand in a figurative sense, get me to the right place. And then when I got there, I was served very well. So it was going above and beyond. And I was interested in setting in for as much of this class as I could, just to understand how we're emphasizing customer service. Because it's one thing, of course, to put it on our logo, which we did that 4 years or so ago, our internal logo. It's another thing to kind of talk about it in general. It's another thing now to have all of our pay impacted by it. It's another thing to have an individual, the caliber of Bridget Bailey, who, by the way, used to be in Anthony's office. So if you thought about, if I was looking around, I thought, who could be best at kind of being the evangelist for customer service? Would I pick someone necessarily out of auditing? Because auditing and customer service are not synonymous generally, but I think that's the point. Bridget has done a phenomenal job, I believe, at getting all of us aligned. And as you know, we just won a NACO award for customer service metrics that we had put in place. That's national recognition. You also know that we're achieving this customer satisfaction target that we set for ourselves now consistently, and that actually has something that means for all of us an additional element of pay, and that's built in going forward. So that all being said, what I was interested in terms of this is how we not only reinforce all of those messages, but then also just underscore it's not really something that isn't intuitive. In other words, it almost is intuitive. In other words, what is it? It's being treated like you want to be treated, right? So whether that is in your family, is in your society in general, if you're taught that in church, but it truly, in many respects is that. Now there is some science behind it. There's a lot of, research that's been done relative to how you feel about your employer will be how you feel or how your customers feel about you. In other words, you can't feel bad working here and then have a good experience with customers or citizens. So that's why we're working a lot on the employee side of the equation, and you'll see actually on Wednesday, we'll make what I think is the biggest single recommendation that probably we will make in terms of employee compensation. So be watching for that. This is where, if you've been in any of our sessions, it's where we're going to recommend to the board a program that moves all of our employees based on tenure through their job classification salary range. So if your range is 30 to 60 and you've been here X number of years, you're going to move through that range based on your tenure in 2 steps, one in 2020, one in 2021. And then going forward, you continue to move based on us achieving these objectives, the primary one being customer service. So that plus, I don't know how many others, because Rosemary is running our program for what we call Chat and Chew, where we're getting as much employee input as possible, both been broad groups, now in specific groups that are in the HR process in particular, with really one goal in mind, and that is taking all that input and making the environment here better, where you can feel better, and then ultimately make citizens feel better. But it kind of all ties back to, it's really a common sense approach more than anything else. Where the challenge is that it's still 5,000 people. You're talking 5,000 people every day. They used to call these in some literature years ago the moment of truth. So in other words, when Anthony sees that citizen confused, that's a moment of truth. Because what could he have done? Just gone on about his way, right? What could you do when you see a citizen confused, or the citizen comes in and has a complaint that you probably heard 15 times before, the same complaint, right? You could say, I've heard this all before, and the answer is no. Rather than seeing them as an individual and trying to get them to yes, whatever yes may be. Now, yes may be no in terms of what they're asking, but it's how you want to be treated, sort of thing. So again, I think today's it's an investment in you, because these skills are good no matter what pursuit that you're in, no matter what function you're in, but also in your day-to-day life. But it's also really very much an investment in Fulton County, because this is important to us. Our pay is tied to it. More importantly, our citizens do expect it. And I think now, both in terms of the numbers that we see, but maybe as meaningful, and that's why I started with this example with Anthony Nix, it's the unprompted notes that we get from them. So to get these unprompted notes and say, geez, I did not expect this, is a real testament that you're doing the right thing. So I just, again, encourage you. Do a little bit of investment today. More importantly, just invest going forward. And then you realize it's not rocket science. It's more common sense than it is anything else. But sometimes it's easy to, when come to the fork in the road, Yogi Berra said, when come to a fork in the road, take it. Well, sometimes you can take the wrong fork. In other words, you think, I'm tired, I've already heard this, I certainly have heard this before, but it's our job to see it anew each time, because for that citizen, that customer, it is only about them, right? They have a perspective of one, they don't know anything that's happened before. They don't know anything about the pressures that you may be under. They don't know anything about your home life. They're just wanting to get one thing solved in their world when they interact with you. And they're coming to us for that reason. They have some need that needs to be met. So it's up to us to do that. So at any rate, that's my 2 cents worth, as they say. And I'm very proud of everything that we're doing, this being one aspect of it. But I really am just so proud of the progress that Fulton County is making in terms of the way we're perceived by citizens, and then how that affects our overall image. And I can tell you the numbers support it, the board recognizes it, but most importantly, these citizens are recognizing it. That's what it's all about. Any questions? All right, now I've just told you 30 years worth of running customer service organizations. That's about all I know in the sense of the word, but that's what it comes down to generally.